When watching these vivid dreams, viewer discretion is advised. Today's story is about a husband and wife that gives birth to a little girl that as she grow up, her life will become more and more weird. And what happens in this story is so bizarre that up to this day, people want to know where she's located, what is she doing now? I mean, all that type of stuff. So if you are into these type of stories, please smash the like button. Go ahead and turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of my 3 or 4 weekly uploads. And if you like this type of content and you want to watch it all together and binge watch it, on Sundays, I upload all 3 stories I put throughout the week into one video. Follow me at Motivation Fam on every platform. Other than that, let's get into this vivid dream. In this story, Diana and Steven will give birth to a little girl, Amy, that they so adored and they loved, and they always, play with her and pick her up and, really give her like the attention she needed as a young woman, a little girl. So as time would pass, and this little girl would start to get older, they would start noticing weird stuff. Like when she had her, food, she would take her stuff and stack her food into a pyramid, and then she would just sit in front of it, and then she would just take her knife and start stabbing into it, and then they say, hey, calm down, stop, what are you doing? Which is a plastic knife, she's still a little girl at the time, so, her parents started really kind of looking into her mental state. But, sometimes she would go back to normal, act normal, play, and have fun, and, do stuff that regular kids do. But every year she gets older, she just get more and more weird, kind of stay to herself and start finding herself in a really dark place. And before you know it, she was isolating herself from everyone. She just stay in this room, and every time she have dreams and stuff, and she's still a little girl at the time, every time she have dreams and stuff, she would come out the room and she would just say, "Mommy, I'm sorry about what happened to all the kids at the park today," because the mother was a teacher. And she'd say, "What?" And then she's like, "I'm sorry." And then she'd just go back in the room. Her mother would go to work that day, and when she get there, she'd take the kids out to recess. All of the kids would just start getting head hurting and headaches, and the parents and the other teachers and staff is kind of running around trying to help each student. And she'll go home and she just think, my daughter told me this before I left the house. And then she'll go home and her daughter again wants to be in the room in the dark place as always, and she sits on this bed and she kind of thinks to herself, and she really isolated herself at the time because she's starting to become, as she got older, noticing that she was a menace to society. She was not good for society. She knew this, and there was nothing she could really do about it. So she kind of started isolating herself even more and more. She even had a few times when she thought about committing suicide, but she wouldn't. And as time go on and stuff, she'll just come back out the room at night in the middle of the night and go, as she sleeps, she'll come back in the room and say, "Mommy, I'm so sorry about Uncle." And then she's like, "What about my brother?" She's like, "I'm so sorry." And then she just walked back in the room. And when she walked back in the room, later on, about an hour later, she get a phone call that her brother was in this tragic accident and he didn't make it. He was rushed to a hospital and pronounced dead. At this point, the mother and the father, they're going bizarre. They trying to figure out what's going on with my child. They take the child to see different doctors and stuff. And she knew it, and she said, "I'm sorry, Mommy, I just can't stop doing it." And eventually, she started hallucinating in the daytime while she's woke, and she thought, she thought killing herself, and she couldn't live with herself. But things will only get worse because as time went on, she would tell her parents again in the middle of the night, "I'm so sorry, we shouldn't go to the beach tomorrow." And the mother said, "Why shouldn't we go to the beach?" She said, "Because Auntie is going to drown and it's going to be bad, and she's going to be so far out in the water, can't no one save her." So she said, "Okay, this has got to stop. Stop these myths. Okay, I understand there's a couple things get you, but that is not going to happen. We're going to go out and have a good time as a family. I really need you just to keep your head on straight." And the daughter said, "I'm trying, but I'm sorry. I seen it in my sleep. It was in my dream." And the next day, they would go to the beach and everything's going all good, and they cooking on the grill and talking and laughing. And as Amy is still sitting on the beach, but she's at a table off to the side, and she's just sitting there and she's rocking, and she's just keeping this little, weird zone look on, she's just waiting for it. And when the mother would look over at her and at Amy, and Amy would look back at the mother, and the mother would just shake her head in disappointment, like, I just really wish my child would be the same little cute baby that I held, the little girl that I played with. But it never happened that way, because she just turned out to be this weird, vivid dream having child. And eventually, every time she has these dreams, they just come true. So as they sitting at the cookout stuff and everything, they would hear a scream come from real far away into the water, and they look, and it's their aunt. Some way, somehow, she got caught by the current, playing around, swimming underwater, and it dragged her way out. And the waves of the current was so bad, she couldn't make it back. So she would fight, and she fighting to get her way back. But unfortunately, she would go underwater and disappear. At this point, the family almost had no choice but to try to disown their child. And they would go to different places, and then all of these doctors would get involved and take a psych reaction wards and all types of stuff that was just to try to get her by. And when they try to do that to Amy, it didn't make things better. It made things worse, because now she was only allowed to come home on the weekends. They kept her locked in this room, and all she could do in this room is do nothing but just look around. The walls are closed, and she's going crazy now, because now she really believes that she's just this crazy person. So it didn't even help. So when she go home on the weekends, her dreams would get even worse. And this when the story takes a turn for the worse, and I would classify this to be one of the saddest things to hear. Amy would go to sleep that night. On the weekend, she came home, and she would have this dream of her with a knife in her hand, and there's blood all over her clothes, and she's standing up in the room, and then she looked down her clothes, and all of a sudden she thought, in her dream, she sees her parents' bodies laying on the floor. But the next day, she would say, "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry for what's going to happen to you tonight." And then the parents are terrified, but of course this facility that she goes to is closed on the weekends, and it's Saturday, and they have to spend one more night with their child, and they are terrified to be in the house with their own child. And when Amy went to sleep, and they noticed she was sound asleep, they would put a lock on the outside of the door so that she couldn't even get out of the room. Even if she had to use the bathroom, she had to use the bathroom in the room. They put a bucket in there for her. They was just so terrified to be around their own child, their own loving child. And later that night, they would hear something breaking sound that comes from down the hallway, and the parents will pop up. But as they try to run out the room, they is terrified as the daughter is standing there with a knife in her hand, and then she goes in there and she starts charging towards the parents and running down the hallway. The parents are scared. They have no weapons. They in the middle of the night. They just woke up. They shocked, and they backing up, and she'll jump on top of the father and stab him. So now he's defenseless. She stabs him right through the chest, so it hits his heart, and his heart bleeds out. And the mother said, "What have you done?" And right as she catches the father and her back is turned, she would feel this knife just come driving straight into her back, and the child would just jump on top of her, and Amy would just start stabbing her. The same loving child that they raised go stabbing her so bad, and you see blood everywhere. It's getting brutal, and then all of a sudden you see her get out, and then she'll go in her room, and she'll wake out of this trance, and she would just break down crying, realizing that she had no control over herself, and her dream just came true. Once this happened and this broke and went viral everywhere, the government did their best to cover it up, so they covered it up and they moved her to an unknown disclosed facility. And up to this day, right now in 2023, she should be the age above 36. So that's gonna do it. If you are into these type of stories, please smash the notification bell so you don't miss any of my 3 or 4 weekly uploads. And I'm new to this. This is only episode 12. So, well, episode 13 actually. So that's gonna do it, guys. Love y'all. I'll see y'all later. Stay tuned for the next Vivid Dream.